Nice and calming. Boom. You probably guessed that one. That one was not a big surprise. So, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It is a Glacial Geek preview of the new Codex Supplement for the Salamanders. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Our hot, spicy boys are here and ready to wreak havoc on the battlefield of the 41st millennium. So let's start getting into this. I think this is going to be a pretty strong Codex Supplement. I mean, it's not super surprising considering, as we saw Iron Hands do what they were doing, but I think it should balance out pretty well. And I think it's going to be fun. It'll be interesting to see how this works out, and it also continues a trend that I've kind of seen in a lot of the codexes, maybe less so in Iron Hands, but a lot of the Codex supplements seem to really be supporting a lot of the OG Marines, the smaller Marines there, but doing a good job with that. And I think this is going to continue that. I think it'll be interesting to see how it goes for pretty obvious reasons that you're going to be seeing. So anyway, so let's get into this. So we've got here the Codex supplement for our flamey brethren here, the Salamanders. So let's keep going over this. So again, these Codex supplements have been pretty awesome. They've got some really great story to them, really great pictures. I think it's kind of cool to see as they've gone on, and I know it's not super incredible, but the fact that they're including a lot of the newer stuff, like they've got the new Primaris character going in here and the pictures and stuff like that. So it's kind of interesting to see that they've got the new stuff going on. It's not just the same old pictures that they've been using for a while. They've been using a lot of the newer stuff, which is really cool to see. So let's keep going along here. So again, it goes into everything, a lot of the story stuff that I'm not going to ruin for anybody, but if you want to follow up on it, all of this is pretty cool. The fact that they keep going into a lot of the different ways that separate this chapter from all the other chapters, which I think is a pretty awesome thing that they've been doing here, and it just gives them a little bit more space to talk about their story in a Codex supplement versus as a tiny little blurb within the greater context of a Space Marines Codex. So that's been pretty awesome to see. They've got talking about Hastan and Adrax Agatone. So going through all this again, they've got a lot of the art, the new paint jobs that you can do with all of them. Pretty awesome stuff. But let's get into the main chunk of this stuff. So basically, we've got here is our Lords of Nocturne. So again, like they took out a lot of the named characters for the from the main codex. So now they've gotten them into this one here. So we've got the two named characters that come with this book here. We've got Adrax Agatone, who's the Primaris character, the captain here that they've got that crossed the Rubicon. Then they've got Vulkanistan in here. So they come in at 140 and 130 points respectively. So Vulkanistan is not Primarisized. So he's just the regular guy doing his normal awesome Vulkanistan things here. He's still got the Gauntlet Forged Assault D6. So it's the auto hitting, so the flamer thing there. So it's pretty awesome. They've also got Spear of Vulcan going through there. All of his usual fun stuff that he's got going on there. 3+ invul save, 5 wounds, 4 attacks. He's a beast. 2-up armor save. Great stuff. So Agatone, going over his stuff here. He's got a couple of weapons here. He's got Dracus, which is a 12-inch assault D6, strength 4, AP -1, 1 damage. Auto hits there, so a flamer weapon essentially, which is pretty cool. 12-inch flamer weapon, which is pretty awesome. So he can, flame things at the full range that you can come in. So if you decide that you want to use him for shooting into Overwatch, he's got the 12-inch range, so you can always hit someone with a flamer if they're charging into him. He can also hit 12 inches here. He also has the ability to, if you want to activate him for the Auspex scan, he can then go in, and then you've got auto hits that are going in there at 12 inches, which is pretty awesome. So you don't even have to suffer the -1 to hit with him, because he is infantry. And then you've got the Malleus Nocturne, which is his melee weapon, strength ×2, AP -3, 4 damage, and -1 to hit from the hit. So it's a 4 damage Thunderhammer, which is pretty cool. So it's basically what you can get with a Smash Captain without having to take the Warlord trait to give him the +1 there. He just gets it as his regular weapon. And then he's got the grenades as well. He's got a couple special rules. He's got Unto the Anvil, add 1 to wound rolls for attacks made with melee weapons by models in friendly Salamanders units whilst their unit is within 6 inches of this model. And if that unit made a charge move, was charged or performed a heroic intervention this turn. So adding 1 to wounds on the turn that they charge or were charged, which is pretty awesome, especially since that adds in, that stacks up pretty well with all of the new Angels of Death rules. So shock attack giving him +1 attack, and now +1 to wound, which is pretty cool there. He's got a 4-up invul save. He also is going to have 6 wounds, which is pretty awesome. He's got the Iradian Drakehide Cloak. When resolving an attack against this model, reduce the damage characteristic of the weapon used by 1 to a minimum of 1 for this attack. So it's going to be harder to take down those 6 wounds, which is pretty awesome. And then he's got Rites of Battle, reroll hit rolls of 1 for attacks made by models of the friendly Salamanders units whilst they're within 6 inches of him, because he's a captain. That's what he's got going on there. So pretty awesome. He's got the 5 attacks going in there, and 2-up armor save, 4-up invul save. I think he's going to be a beast, and especially I think for 140 points, I think he's going to be a great support character for some of the stuff that we're going to get into that I think are going to make the Salamanders seem pretty cool. So more pretty pictures that they got going on here. So let's get into the crux of this. So they've got their Promethean cult is going to be their super doctrine. So whilst this tactical doctrine is active, when resolving an attack made with a flame or melta weapon by a model with this ability, add 1 to the wound roll. So if you get into the tactical doctrine, now all of a sudden all of their flame and melta weapons are adding 1 to the wound roll, which is awesome. I think that's going to be a really incredible ability, stacking on with a lot of the different stuff that they've got going on there. And it also works out because a lot of those weapons are assault or, rapid fire. So they're all assault. So you're going to have the ability to fire with them, which is going to be pretty awesome. And getting the +1 for the regular doctrine. And then you've got add 1 to the wound roll there. So, you're wounding with regular flamers, you're wounding Marines on 3s. You're wounding Imperial Guardsmen on 2s, -1 for a regular flamer. Pretty awesome, and that's going to stack up really well with a lot of the other things that we've got going on here. We've got a couple Warlord traits that you can choose from here. We've got Anvil of Strength. Add 2 to the Strength characteristic of this Warlord, which is I think that's the Warlord trait that they had in the main Codex that was specifically for the Salamanders. We then got Miraculous Constitution. When this Warlord would lose a wound, roll 1d6. On a 6, that wound is not lost. In addition, so 6+, feel no pain. At the start of your movement phase, this Warlord regains 1 lost wound. So it's a 6-up, feel no pain, plus regenning 1 wound each time, which is pretty awesome. Which also works very thematically with the Salamanders, considering that Histan is what is it? Where you can't die. So perpetual there. Then we've got Never Give Up. At the start of the battle round, you can select 1 friendly Salamander's unit within 6 inches of this Warlord. Until the end of that battle round, that unit has the Defenders of Humanity ability. So they get, objective secured, which is pretty awesome. So you can just stick that, have this guy running around with like a squad of aggressors with their 3 wounds, tough 5, and now they're going to be sitting on objectives and holding it against anyone that gets around them. So all of a sudden people throw in, a bunch of guardsmen to try to do it, and they're just going to be sitting on it, which is pretty awesome. We've got Forge Master. Add 2 to the toughness characteristic of this Warlord. Pretty cool. Adding 2 to the toughness. Wow, you got toughness 6 if you get a captain in Gravis armor. Toughness 7. The same toughness as as a rhino. That's pretty awesome. You got Lord of Fire. You can reroll the dice to determine the number of attacks made with flame weapons by friendly Salamanders models whilst this unit is within 6 inches of this Warlord. So rerolling the number of auto hits from flame weapons, which is pretty awesome because I think that's going to become a huge thing that you're going to have going forward with a lot of these guys. And that's going to be the fact is Lord of Fire is actually the special trait that Adrax Agatone has, which is great because I think that's going to key in really well with him sticking around with a whole bunch of aggressors, which I think you're going to see him possibly doing a whole lot of. And then you got Patient and Determined. Once per shooting phase and or once per fight phase, when resolving an attack made by this Warlord, do not make a hit roll. It automatically scores a hit. So he gets to have an auto hit with a shot, and auto hit with an attack, which is pretty awesome. And then the characters, so Agatone has Lord of Fire, which is the reroll the number of attacks. And then you've got Vulkanistan has Anvil of Strength. So Anvil of Strength was the plus to add 2 to the Strength characteristic, which is pretty awesome. And especially since I think what it was his weapon. So his Spear of Vulcan adds +2 as well. So it's basically Strength times 2 minus 2 D3 damage for his spear, which is pretty awesome. So you've got that. Then we've got going into the relics here. So we've got Vulcan Sigil. Add 1 to the attacks characteristic for a model with this relic. In addition, once per battle, at the start of the fight phase, a model with this relic can hold aloft Vulcan Sigil. Until the end of that phase, add 1 to the attacks characteristic of models in friendly Salamanders units whilst the unit is within 6 inches of that model. Note that the attacks characteristic of this model of the model with this relic is therefore increased by 2 until the end of the phase. So you're adding 1 to the attacks characteristic for your models, and you get to add an additional 1 once per battle. You can hold it up, and all units within 6 inches get +1 attack, including them who's going to have +2 attacks because of the relic plus the second power there. We've got the Drake Smiter, model equipped with a Thunderhammer only. The relic replaces the Thunderhammer, following profile. So it's strength times 2, AP -4, 3 damage. So it's AP -4, which is pretty good. When resolving an attack made with this weapon, subtract 1 from the hit roll. And on an unmodified wound roll of a 6, add 3 to the damage characteristic of this weapon with this attack. So again, it's going to be situational, but I think it could be pretty awesome. I mean, doing 6 damage on a hit on a wound roll of a 6 is pretty awesome, especially at AP -4. If you hit something without an invul save, most of them are going to be at best you're looking at a 6-up save, and doing 6 damage, pretty brutal. I think that's going to be a good one. Though maybe +1 attack might be better. I don't know. Situational again. Wrath of Prometheus, Salamander's model with a bolt gun or mastercrafted bolt gun only. Relic replaces the bolt gun or mastercrafted bolt gun and has the following profile. Range 30 inches, rapid fire 1, strength 5, AP -2, 3 damage. Whew, that's pretty juicy there. 3 damage bolter, getting 2 shots at 15 inches. AP -2 is really pretty brutal because there's a lot of powers there that can ignore AP -1. This is not going to be bothered by that because you got AP -2, which is pretty cool. Then we've got Tome of Velcona. Librarian model only. Model with this relic knows 1 psychic power from the Promethean discipline in addition to any other powers it knows. When a psychic test is taken for a model with this relic that is attempting to manifest a psychic power from the Promethean discipline, you can add 1 to the total. So add 1 to your Promethean abilities and know another power, which is pretty cool. And Salamander's Mantle. When resolving an attack made against a model with this relic, subtract 1 from the wound roll. So -1 to wound, which is pretty awesome. So now, strength 8 onto a tough 4 model is going to be wounding them on 3s. Strength 4 is going to be wounding them on 5s. That's pretty cool. I think that's a pretty good one. -1 to wound is always pretty awesome. And then you got Nocturne's Vengeance, model with a Combi Flamer only. This relic replaces the Combi Flamer, has the following profile. You can choose one of the or both. Mastercrafted Bolt Gun, 24, Rapid 1, Strength 4, AP -1, 2 damage. Mastercrafted Flamer, 12 inches, so 12 inches again, which is pretty good. Assault D6, Strength 4, AP -1, 2 damage again, which is awesome. So, you add this in with a bunch of other things, and suddenly you've got +1 to wound against +1 to wound against Marines, and now you're wounding those Marines on 3, AP -1, 2 damage. Primaris killer right there. That's pretty cool. And this automatically hits with the Combi Flamer. And it's 12 inches again, which is pretty awesome. So if they drop in, try to charge you, anything like that, you've got the range on them. And then you got Primaris, then you got Helm of Draculos, Primaris model only. Add 1 to the wounds characteristic of a model with this relic. Subtract 1 from the leadership characteristic of models and enemy units whilst they're within 6 inches of the relic. So +1 wound is always good, and you can do things mess with people with leadership, especially if you're going to be aggressive with them and charge in, which, I think a lot of the Salamanders are going to really show their strength getting close in there with their flamer weapons, and then a lot of the bonuses to close combat attacks, which is pretty cool. Then we got special issue wargear. So this is the stuff that you can take as a if you're a successor chapter. That's the word I was looking for. Sorry about that. And you can get this. Can't be given named characters and vehicle models cannot be given any of the following relics. So we've got Adamantine Mantle model with this relic, has a 6+ feel no pain, 5+ feel no pain, not bad. So it's not what was the other? It was the Warlord trait where they got a 6+ feel no pain and healing 1. This one is just a 5+ feel no pain. Then we've got Artificer Armor model with this relic characteristic as 2+ save, 5+ invul save, 2+ armor save, 5+ invul save. Mastercrafted weapon. Select one weapon this model is equipped with. Add 1 to the damage characteristic of that weapon. This weapon is considered a chapter relic. So that's pretty cool. Put that onto a flamer weapon as you're going to go in there. You'll see a lot of that stuff. Digital weapons is the same as they've done. Obsidian Aquila. When a friendly chapter model within 6 inches of a model with this relic would lose a wound, roll 1d6. On a 6+, the wound is not lost. So 6+ feel no pain for people around you. That's not bad. Promethean Plate. When resolving an attack made against a model with this relic, an unmodified wound roll of 1, 2, or 3 always fails, irrespective of any abilities the weapon and model taking the attack may have. If you feel like running in and punching a knight in the face, that knight is going to be wounding you on 4s at best. Strength 8, doesn't matter. Wounding on 4s. That's pretty awesome. Everything wounding on 4s. It really helps you protect those characters against a lot of the high strength attacks that you have out there. So go ahead, get punched in the face with a thunder gauntlet, and suddenly wounding you on 4s. The same thing as a regular Marine punching you in the face with his hand is going to be doing. Maybe more damage if you do fail the save afterwards, but the same wound roll for it, which is pretty cool. Then we've got Dragon Rage Bolts. When this model is given a relic, select one bolt weapon, and that model is equipped with. When the bearer shoots with that weapon, you can choose for it to fire Dragon Rage Bolt. If you do, you can only make 1 attack with this weapon, but if the attack hits, make d6 wound rolls instead of 1. Each successful wound roll results in a wound that must be allocated. Then, when resolving that attack, the target does not receive the benefit of cover for its saving throws, and that weapon has a damage characteristic of 1 and an armor penetration characteristic of -1 for that attack. So pretty cool. AP -1, 1 damage, but you're doing d6 wound rolls instead of 1, which is pretty cool. Then you've got Drake Blade, a model with this power sword. With a power sword, mastercrafted power sword, or combat knife only, the relic replaces the model's power sword, mastercrafted power sword, or combat knife as the following profile. Strength user, AP -4, 2 damage. When resolving an attack made with this weapon, on an unmodified wound roll of 6, target suffers 1 mortal wound in addition to any normal damage. So they've got some pretty cool special issue war gear that you can take if you want to do a successor chapter, which I'm going to get to in a bit, why you may want to consider doing a successor chapter for these guys. But I think that's going to be, they've got some good stuff that you can go there. And I think they've got the same one where you can, stratagem, where you can take one of these if you really like these. These are pretty good. Don't get me wrong. These are really good, but I think that you may be considering doing a successor chapter, so you may want to think about it. So let's get into the stratagems that they got. They've got some really cool ones. I think they're going to be awesome. So for 2 CP, you've got Flamecraft. Use the stratagem in your shooting phase. When a Salamander unit from your army is chosen to shoot with, until the end of that phase, when a model in this unit shoots with a flame weapon, do not roll to determine the number of attacks made with this weapon. Instead, the maximum number of attacks are made with that weapon. E.g., 6 attacks are made with a heavy D6 weapon. Boom. That is awesome. For 2 CP now, you've got the maximum amount of shots that you're going to get on your flame weapons. So now you've got, what is that? That's a 6-man aggressor squad with the flame gauntlets each. 2d6 attacks. If they stood still, that's 4d6 attacks, right? Now those are going to be 4 times 6. You're going to have 24 attacks per model. You get 6 models down there. You've got 120, 6 times 4, 24, 144 auto hits coming off of those weapons that are in there for 2 CP. Man, that's going to put down a whole lot of things. 30-man squad of orcs. You throw that down there. You get the +1 to wound. So if you've got that there with the Promethean cult, add 1 to the wound roll if it's the tactical doctrine. So +1 to wound. So you've got strength 4. AP -1 because it's the tactical doctrine, doing 1 damage apiece, 144 auto hits, wounding on 3s against tough 4 models. That's going to just mess a whole lot of people up. It's going to be wounding Marines on 3s and doing with AP -1. You've got them at a 4-up save, and they're going to be doing 1 damage apiece, but 144 hits from a 6-man aggressor squad with those flame weapons. oh man, that's suddenly now aggressors with the flame gauntlets are something that you're going to want to take. And this is going to go what I was going to go into, but if you take him as a successor chapter, you have the master. What is the master of range, where you give them plus 3 inches to all of their ranged weapons. So now suddenly he's got those flamers that are going to be 11-inch range. So you have them out there, they come in 11-inch range, and they're going to be putting out massive amounts of shots there. Or you just have a 10-man Stern Guard squad with 2 heavy flamers and 8 combi flamers. Put that same 2 CP on there. That's 210 points of just brutal shots that are going to be going out there. Awesome stuff. And again, that's why you have a lot more options for your regular dude bros being able to get flamer weapons and melta weapons that are going to be working with a lot of these things. And that's why I think that it really helps support the OG Marines that they've got going on there. The next one that we got going in here, 1 CP for the Crucible of Battle. Use the stratagem in the shooting or fight phase when a Salamander's unit from your army is chosen to shoot or fight with. Until the end of that phase, when resolving an attack made by a model in that unit, add 1 to the wound roll. So you add that. You pile that on with so for 3 CP now, you've got full number of shots. And you're adding +1 to wound. If it's the Tactical Doctrine, you're adding another additional +1 to wound. So now suddenly you're wounding those Marines with all those shots on 2s. You're wounding a Knight with those regular flamers on 4s. AP -1, 1 damage, and it's just, oh man, it's brutal. I think you could do some brutal combinations here with the CP that you can work with these guys with flamers. Flamers are really where I think these guys are gonna really shine, which is perfect and very apropos for the Salamanders to have. I mean, even the design on their book here, they got singes along the edges, which is pretty cool. All right, so for 1 CP, you've got Strength of the Primarch. Use this stratagem at the start of the fight phase. Select 1 Salamander's unit from your army. Until the end of that phase, add 1 to the strength characteristic of models in that unit. And when resolving an attack made with a melee weapon by a model in that unit, or an unmodified wound roll of 6, double the damage characteristic of that weapon for that attack. So Hammernators coming in there, you can give them +1 strength. So now their Thunder Hammers are going to be strength 10, which is pretty awesome. So you're going to be wounding Knights on 3s. Wounding Knights on 3s there, and any 6 is going to be doing double damage, so doing 6 damage into there, which is pretty amazing for 1 CP. Awesome. So now you really kind of see where they're going with these guys, that they want you to be up front, like right in their face there. So you've got the flame weapons that you're going to be shooting in there, and then you're going to go in for the charge. So maybe what you do is you give these guys, what was it? There's one of the other successor chapters. So the successor chapter, you give them the +3 inch to the ranged weapons. So now all of a sudden their regular flamers are an 11-inch range, which is going to be super helpful for when you're deep striking in, coming out of, having Stern Guard coming out of a drop pod turn 1 with all those flamers. Or you can have, just aggressors giving them that extra little bit of range. So you can, or even just protecting them against charges with their flame weapons, because you're going to get those auto hits. Then you give them the ability to charge after they've fallen back. So now they can back out. Everyone else can just flame into them, and then they can charge back into combat. I think that you're going to see a lot of close, in-your-face Salamanders lists that are going to be doing a lot of brutal damage, because they've got the abilities with a lot of these things to counter other Marines, which right now I think Marines are the top tier army that you're going to see a lot of, even with the changes that were made to the Iron Hands. I still think they're going to be competing at the top level there, and these guys now have the ability to really go toe to toe with any other Marine army that you want to throw their way, which is pretty awesome. Then for 1 CP, you've got the Fires of Battle. Use the stratagem in your shooting phase or in your opponent's charge phase when a Salamander's model from your army shoots with a flame or melta weapon. Until the end of that phase, when resolving an attack made with this weapon on an unmodified wound roll of 4+, the target suffers 1 mortal wound in addition to any normal damage. So, unmodified wound roll of 4+, you're doing mortal wounds. Key that in with Flamecraft now, and suddenly that 144 auto hits every 4+. So half of that you're doing on average for 3 CP on average, for a 6-man aggressor squad with those gauntlets, you're doing, what is that, 72 on average? 72 mortal wounds? 72 mortal wounds? There's nothing that can stand up to that. Nothing that can stand up to that. Even if you have a feel no pain, 72 mortal wounds is going to take down a knight in one turn. It's going to take down a repulsor in one turn. Brutal, 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 brutal. And like I said, you can put that in there with that 10-man squad with the heavy flamer and the and the regular the 10-man squad of Stern Guard with all those flame shots there. So you're looking at there at 60 shots, that are auto hits when they drop down turn one, get out of that pod. They've got plus 3 inches to their flamers, so outside of 9 inches, they're still within range. Give them that. So now it's 60 auto hits. Every 4+ that they do is doing a mortal wound. Oof. It's pretty brutal. I think they're going to be pretty awesome. And again, that's another example of that kind of strategy really works well with the old Marines, because it's harder to get deep striking Primaris Marines for a regular Marine army. But with the regular guys, now you've got a lot of access to flame weapons, and the combinations here, obviously very CP heavy. That's 1 alpha strike shot that you've got there for 3 CP. But man, that's brutal. I think that's going to be pretty awesome there. Then we've got, for 2 CP, Rights of Vulkan. Use the stratagem at the start of your movement phase if the tactical doctrine is active. Until the start of the next battle round, when resolving an attack made with a rapid fire or assault weapon by a Salamander's model from your army, on an unmodified wound roll of 6, the armor penetration characteristic of that weapon is improved by an additional 1 for that attack. You can only use this stratagem once per battle. So for 2 CP, you've got an additional AP -1 on a wound roll of a 6 for armor penetration characters. I mean, pretty good. For 2 CP, it seems kind of expensive. You can combine that with the Flamecraft and all the other things that we've been talking about to be, pretty helpful there with that. But at the same time, 2 CP seems a bit much considering everything else that can be combined here for 2 CP. I think that's going to be probably not used as much. And it's only once per battle. So, I don't know. You could use it. It would be good. I think for that one turn, maybe just pop it in there if you got the CP. And just start, flaming things. I think it'd be cool. Then you've got, for 1 CP, despite the odds, use the stratagem at the end of your turn if a Salamander's Warlord from your army is on the battlefield and you did not achieve any tactical objectives this turn. Generate 1 new tactical objective. You can only use the stratagem if the mission you are playing uses tactical objectives. So, pretty cool if you're playing, if you're using tactical objectives for 1 CP, get 1 even if you didn't manage to get something to change your fate for the next turn, which is pretty cool. 1 CP, Immolation Protocols. Use this stratagem in your shooting phase. When a Salamander's unit from your army is chosen to shoot with, until the end of that phase, change the type of all flame weapons models in this unit are equipped with to pistol. So now you can't even avoid them. You can't give them the bad touch. Now you charge into that intercessor squad, consolidate into their aggressor squad, and then on their turn, they don't even have to step out of combat. They spend 1 CP, and now their flamers are pistols, and they're hitting you with those flamers anyway. Boom. That's awesome. That's super awesome. Super, super awesome. So now, not only are you getting up in their face, you're super great with all of your flamer weapons being up close there. You've got a lot of buffs that go into your close combat. So you really want to get up in their face. You really want to get really aggro with all of this. And now you're not even afraid of being locked in combat. Because when it comes to your shooting phase, sure, you don't get to shoot your flamers. Oh, except for 1 CP. Yes, you can. Boof. That's awesome. And I think that's awesome to have that in there as a way to allow this army to be super aggressive. Because a lot of times, if you are super aggressive, you can find yourself being hurt because you can get, locked in combat, get the bad touch, and suddenly those units that you have all those flamers with that you wanted to be taking out hordes of the enemy are caught up in close combat. Not necessarily where they want to be, although I think with these guys they might be. But now you also have the ability to just use the flamer. So, boom, they try to bog down your aggressor squad with a whole bunch of chaff. Well, now flame them and move on from there, which is pretty awesome. And you're up in their ranks at that point. So you flame out the chaff with your flamer, and then you charge during your charge phase. So you can keep it moving and keep them progressing along and just like grinding through the enemy, which is awesome. Then we have Self-Sacrifice for 2 CP. Use the stratagem at the start of your opponent's shooting phase. Select one Salamander's infantry unit from your army. Until the end of that phase, enemy units cannot target any other infantry units from your army that are within 6 inches of the select. Cannot target any other infantry units from your army that are within 6 inches of the selected unit, unless that unit is the closest enemy unit to the firing unit and visible to it. So you can use this to help protect your flamer squads as they're moving across the board. So now your aggressors who usually have to plot across the board, you put that 2 CP. If you put it just says select one Salamander's infantry unit. Put it on a character and have them sit behind the aggressors. Have some scouts out there behind a building wall, and they can't shoot them because those guys are not the closest model because you've got those scouts out there, or you got a flyer flying across the table. And they can't shoot those aggressors, because they can't shoot at the character who's got this ability on them behind them. Man, that's for 2 CP. That's pretty brutal. And I imagine that's probably going to get changed. I could see them change it to non-character or can't be put on the character just because of the it makes basically you're putting yourself out there and you're like, come at me, bro. And except you're a character, you're like, come at me, bro, but you can't come at me because, I'm a character and I'm hiding behind my big wall of T5 3-wound aggressors that you can't shoot at because I just yelled, come at me, bro. That's tough. That's tough. I could either see that maybe either becoming like once per battle use, making it 3 CP, or making it so that you can't put it onto a character. Mostly you change it, you can't put it on a character, and suddenly this becomes pretty good, I think. It does mean that it's basically to help you get your flame guys into flame range without being shot down before they can get there. I get where it's coming from, but for 2 CP, putting that on infantry is going to be a little tough to handle. For 2 CP, then we've got Rise from the Ashes. Use this stratagem in any phase when a Salamander character model from your army is destroyed. At the end of the phase, roll 1d6 and a 4+ return that model to play with 1 wound remaining, placing it as close as possible to the previous position and more than 1 inch away from any enemy models. The stratagem cannot be used on the same model more than once per battle. So for 2 CP, you can now get back up with 1 CP with 1 wound left. Then you combine that with was it the Warlord trait or the Relic, where it allows you to heal once per turn. Pretty awesome. So your opponent punches you to death, you come back up. You reroll. You come back with 1 wound on your turn. You heal another one. Now you got 2 wounds, and you can keep going. Not the greatest. Then you can heal them again with an apothecary or something like that. Pretty good. And being able to save people like that with the warlords and stuff like that, it could really become helpful for 2 CP. Getting it's on a 4+, so it's less reliable than like Celestine or something like that, but still pretty cool that you can put it on to anybody, which is great. And again, very thematic with the Salamanders, considering Vulkan and his abilities there. 1 CP, Vengeance for Istvan 5. Use the stratagem in the fight phase when a Salamander's unit from your army is chosen to fight with. Until the end of that phase, when resolving an attack made with a melee weapon by a model in that unit against a Word Bearers, Iron Warriors, Night Lords, or Alpha Legion unit, you can reroll the hit roll. So rerolling hit rolls for 1 CP, not bad. But it's only against specific Chaos Space Marines there, which is, again, very thematic and very situational. But when it comes up, as a Dark Angel player, I've got a whole lot of things that get to go against the Fallen that you never see. So you're probably more likely to see an Iron Warriors or a Night Lords or Alpha Legion army than you are going to see a Fallen army. So, more power to you there with that one. 1 CP, Stand Your Ground. Use this stratagem in any phase when a Salamander's infantry unit from your army that is not a servitor and did not advance in this phase or your previous movement phase is chosen as the target for an attack. Until the end of that phase, when resolving an attack made with a weapon that has a damage characteristic of 1 against a model in that unit, add 1 to the saving throw. This does not affect invulnerable saving throws. So you get +1 against damage 1 attacks. So say someone just swarms you with a whole bunch of Gene Stealers, you get +1 to your save there. So suddenly now you get a 6-up save on regular Marines against their 6s to wound. You get your regular 3-up save against their against non-6s to wound with those Gene Stealers. Pretty good for 1 CP. not bad. I like it. You can have advanced though, which is pretty good. Which is, makes it situational there. But pretty good. I think that one could come in handy a lot, because there's a lot of stuff out there that does 1 damage. Bolter shots, things like that. Or there's gonna be a lot of bolter shots coming from Marines now. So for 1 damage there, you put that on there, and suddenly that barrage of bolter shots coming at you, you get +1 to your save, and it just says +1 to your save. So if you're in cover, you're gonna get +2 to your save. So trying to beat these guys off of cover, you're going to have to bring a whole bunch of AP, which is pretty cool. Then you've got Born Protectors. Use the stratagem in your opponent's charge phase. When a charge is declared against Salamander's unit from your army, select one friendly Salamander's unit that is more than 1 inch away from any enemy units and within 12 inches of the unit that is the target of that charge. The selected unit can fire Overwatch at the charging unit as if it were a target of that of that charge. If the selected unit is a target of that charge, it instead fires Overwatch as normal. In addition, if that charge is successful, the selected unit can perform a heroic intervention as if it were a character. If it does, it can move up to 2d6 inches, but must end that move closer to the unit that charged and cannot move within 1 inch of any other enemy units. Pretty awesome. I think this is going to be super cool, trying to get, if people are trying to avoid all of your flame weapons by, picking and choosing who they're going to charge into. Suddenly now you've got that flame unit that's right next to them, and they just go, all right, well, now I'm going to fire Overwatch. Sounds great. And then, or if they charge and then they fail that charge, you can now move 2d6 inches closer and try to get you basically get your own counter charge there, which is pretty awesome. And you can only move, you can't move within 1 inch of anything other than the unit that was overwatching, but of any other enemy units, but still pretty cool that they have that ability to use that 2 CP. I think I could see this, especially if you're trying to be super aggressive, which I think you should be with the Salamanders. I think that could be really helpful, especially trying to move your aggressors across the table, or trying to counter people who are trying to avoid your flamers in Overwatch. That's going to be pretty awesome, especially if you've got your 11-inch Overwatch with your successor chapter. Then you've got 1 CP, Relentless Determination. Use this stratagem at the end of your movement phase. Select one Salamander's unit from your army that did not advance that phase. Until the start of your next movement phase, that unit is treated as having remained stationary during its movement phase for all rules purposes, such as firing heavy weapons. In addition, if that unit has a damage table, then until the start of your next movement phase, double the number of wounds it has remaining for the purposes of determining what now to use on that damage table. So for 1 CP, you basically double the wounds for determining where it is on a damage table. It also allows your aggressors to move their regular move. They can't advance, move their regular move, and then count as staying still. So they can move their 5 inches and then double tap with their weapons, which is pretty awesome, especially, again, paired up with all of the other things. So now their flame weapons with that +3 inches have an effective range of 16 inches for the double tap. 16 inches for the double tap, and that's pretty awesome. I think it's going to become super, super effective for these guys being able to work with all of that. Then for 1 CP, you've got Exemplar of the Promethean Creed. Use the stratagem after nominating a Salamander's model that is not a named character to be your warlord. You can generate 1 additional warlord trait for them. This must be from the Salamander's warlord traits table. Each warlord trait in your army must be unique. You can only use this stratagem once per battle. So basically, you have 2 warlord traits for 1 CP, which is pretty awesome, as long as it's not a named character. 1 CP, Master Artisans. Use this stratagem before the battle. Select one Salamander's model from your army that has the keyword Sergeant in their profile. They can have one of the following chapter relics, which is pretty cool. All of the guys have that one. Then you've got Trust of Prometheus. Use the stratagem after nominating a model drawn from a Salamander's successor chapter. This is the one that allows you to get the relic for your non-Salamanders, the successor chapter. Awesome stuff. These guys are going to be, I think you're going to see a lot of armies being painted green with this. It's very specific units. I don't think that you're just going to be able to paint your Iron Hands army green and call it good. I think you're going to be looking at flame aggressors, which a lot of other armies aren't really using. You're looking at Stern Guard with heavy flamers and combi flamers. Very specific stuff that's going to work really well for your salamanders, but you're not necessarily going to see them in other armies. So, which is pretty cool, because it does mean that it does super benefit people that have made very fluffy salamanders armies. This is going to be, all of these tactics here are going to work super well for you and be super effective in helping you just make them really, really super strong. But at the same time, you're not going to see generic marine armies just being like, today I'm going to be salamanders, because of a lot of their stuff very specifically is designed to work with flamers, which is pretty cool. So now maybe there's a reason to take a Land Raider with the Flamestorm cannons. You take the Land Raider Redeemer? Yes, the Land Raider Redeemer with the Flamestorm cannons. Give them plus 3 inches to their range there because of the successor chapter. Pop it full of Terminators with Thunderhammer Storm Shields and throw them in with all of these extra bonuses in there. Woo-wee! I think that's going to be super, super strong and super effective. And that'll be fun. It'll be cool to see that back, Thundernators inside of Land Raiders. You really can't be upset that comes back. I think that's going to be super fun to see that happen there. So now let's go into their new Promethean discipline, which is the brand new psychic powers here. So we got Flaming Blast. Flaming Blast is a warp charge value of 6. If manifested, select 1 point on the battlefield within 24 inches of and visible to this psyker. Roll 1d6 for each enemy unit within 3 inches of that point. On a 4+, that unit suffers 1 mortal wound. For 6, if they're really clumped in together, say they have an Iron Hands castle that they've got going on here, you could do a mortal wound to every unit within 3 inches of a point on that table. So if they're castling up really hard, throw it in there. The orcs are castling around their custom force field, or you've got a Dark Angels army castling around Azrael there. Throw that in there, and boom, you're doing a bunch of mortal wounds, hopefully, for a warp charge value of 6. So for 1 more than Smite is going to be doing. You got Fire Shield. Fire Shield is a warp charge value of 6 if manifested. Select 1 friendly Salamanders unit within 18 inches of the Psyker till the start of your next psychic phase. When resolving an attack made with a ranged weapon against that unit, subtract 1 from the hit roll. In addition, when a charge roll is made for a charge that unit is a target of, subtract 1 from the result. Pretty good. Help protect you from being charged yourself. Let you get the charge off that you wanted in your control. Burning Hands is a warp charge value of 6 if manifested, then until the start of your next psychic phase. When resolving an attack made with a close combat weapon, the profile of which, blah, 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 by the Psyker, if a hit is scored, the target suffers 1 mortal wound and the attack sequence ends. So for every hit, you're doing 1 mortal wound instead of D3 possible wounds, but there's no save at that point, which is pretty cool. So if you just want to be doing, if you want to just, if you want them to catch your hands, put some Prometheum all up on them and make it burn. We've got Drakeskin. Drakeskin is a warp charge value of 6. If manifested, is like 1 friendly Salamanders unit within 12 inches of the Psyker. Until the start of your next psychic phase, add 1 to the toughness characteristic of models in that unit. So +1 to toughness for a unit within 12 inches. Pretty good. Pop that in with a bunch of the other stuff that they've got there, and suddenly you've got someone that's going to be very tough to take down. So say you take that 6-man aggressor squad, pop this psychic power onto them, then use that CP that stratagem. That means that the enemy can only target them, and suddenly they've got 3 wound, toughness 6 models with 3 up armor save. Whew, that's going to be a lot to get through before they can target anyone else in that 6-inch bubble there, which is pretty good. Or put that onto the character that you've got that with, and suddenly now even their snipers are going to have a hard time managing to deal with them, which is pretty cool. We've got Fury of Nocturne. Fury of Nocturne is a warp charge value of 6. If manifested, select 1 enemy unit within 18 inches of and visible to this Psyker. Roll 2d6. If the result is greater than the highest toughness characteristic of models in that unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. So if you can roll higher than 2d6, greater than the highest toughness characteristic of model, doing D3 mortal wounds, which is pretty awesome. D3. So it's basically a more it's like Smite, but +1 to charge, but you can target it, and then you're going to be doing D3 mortal wounds if you can roll higher than their toughness on 2d6. So harder to do it against a knight, really easy to do it against guardsmen. So for 6, that's not bad. I might be consider taking that one, especially since you could do that and then Smite. So now you've got possible 2d3 mortal wounds that you're throwing out at a unit, which is not bad. Then you got Draconic Aspect. Draconic Aspect is a warp charge value of 6. If manifested, then until the start of your next psychic phase, subtract 2 from the leadership characteristic of models and enemy units whilst their unit is within 12 inches of the psyker. So -2 to leadership within 12 inches of the psyker. Again, if you're being very aggressive with the Salamanders, which I think you should be, that's what you got going on there. And I think that's going to be super powerful and super fun. Because now you got all those flamers that just like wreak havoc onto these large blobs of infantry, and they're -2 to their leadership, so making even more of them run that manage to survive the conflagration, which is pretty cool. And then you've got the new tactical objectives that you've got from them, and then you've got your name generator. So awesome supplement here. I think so here's the difference that I think with this. I think they're going to be super powerful for very specific units. So again, I've said it a lot. Flame Gauntlet aggressors are going to be all over Salamander lists. Stern Guard with 10-man Stern Guard squads with combi flamers and heavy flamers dropping down in drop pods turn 1. Awesome. Put them into a Rhino, shoot them up the board, popping out, flaming them. Awesome. +3 inches to those flamers because of that. Then you've got all the strategies you got there. So you're doing 6 hits instead of just D6. You're doing +1 to wound, add 1 to the wound rolls. So, adding 1 to the wound roll for that CP. Plus, you've got here, add 1 to the wound roll if it's tactical doctrine. Now, suddenly, those strength 4 flamers are wounding knights on 4s. They're wounding other Marines on 2s. And you're getting the full 6 shots from each of them, which is unbelievable. Unbelievable. I think these guys are going to be super strong, and I think you're going to see a lot of them. But what I think makes a big difference between what makes these guys super strong and what made like Iron Hands super strong with their Codex supplement is that these guys need a very specific build to their army that those guys didn't necessarily have. I know they had a lot. You have dreadnoughts, you've got the repulsors, all of those things, which work for any army. I don't think that Ultramarine dreadnoughts are bad. I do think that a 10-man Stern Guard squad with a whole bunch of combi flamers and Ultramarines is not that great. Drop them in from, with their drop pod, and then they're stuck there, sitting there outside of their 8-inch, 9-inch bubble. They've got an 8-inch range combi flamers. They're not going to be helpful, But the successor chapter adding 3 inches is going to make the flamers way more effective, I think, which is why I think you're going to see a lot of Salamander successor chapters, simply for that one part of the dual abilities there. You can mix and match it there. So if you want them to get cover when they're more than 12 inches away as they're making their charge in, although, to be honest, you're going to be in people's faces. I think that'd be great. I don't think that's going to be a tough one. But if you want it, if you're worried about it, you can use it. If you want to have the ability to fall back and charge, go for it. There's all sorts of little ways that you can really tweak it for your own and run them as a successor chapter of the Salamanders. But that +3 inches to the ranged weapons is going to be super key to make this Codex supplement, I think, just absolutely shine off the charts. I think it's going to be super cool how all of these things interact, and they interact very specifically with themselves. And again, like I said, I think that it's going to be super helpful for older Marines being able to use this stuff because of the just the ability to take a lot more flame weapons than you can see in Primaris. Because the Primaris, what you have access to is the Flame Gauntlet aggressors, which are awesome, and I think are going to be super effective in the Salamander's army. But I mean, you're going to need more than that if you really want to take advantage of what's going to make this Codex supplement shine. So, get ready, because if get ready to have a whole bunch of green boys all up in your face, shooting flame at you and just then charging in and finishing up the punches. So I think the combination of how you can buff up characters, the way you can buff up close combat, and the way those flamers are going to work, that you're going to see a lot of these guys just running up the board straight into your face and just flaming you and then punching you. And I think it's going to be awesome. And I think it would be a lot of fun to play, and again, you've got those things, you have to get there. So you have to figure out delivery method, whether it's a Land Raider Redeemer with the Flamestorm cannons that are going to be effective with all of these things, or whether it's going to be drop pods dropping them in, or whether you're going to try to foot slog it and just try to make it up there. There's ways of making it work. Like I said, like the self-sacrifice is going to help you get up there. The -1 to, the being considered in cover is going to help you. The ability to ignore AP -1 for stuff. Like, there's ways to make it happen, to get you where you need to be, to use your flamers, and to get into close combat. And I think that's going to be the big difference between what really shifts this army into an effective close combat, where I think things like, the Space Wolves suffer the same kind of conundrum where they really want to get into close combat, but they have a hard time getting there because of all the DACA. I think this list, if you can figure it out, this army is going to be helpful for it, because they also have the awesome flame shooting that's going to go along with them. So check it out. I think this is going to be an awesome Codex supplement. I don't think it's as broken, I think, as the Iron Hands ended up being, just because of the fact that a lot of the units that this supplement really takes advantage of are going to be very unique to builds for Salamanders. So you're going to see people that are going to want to take this are going to be ones who want to make a Salamander army that's now going to be effective on the table, versus people going, what army am I going to take that's going to win me LVO, and then just taking the Salamanders to work with it. Because, like I said, it's a very specific Marine army that you're making for these Salamanders to make them effective. But I think when you do, it's going to be awesome. So check it out. I think all the Sons of Vulkan are going to be super happy with this Codex supplement, and I think all the powers and abilities they've got going on here are awesome to see. It's awesome to see Marines doing really well, and doing really well in a way that I don't think is going to break the game, which is fun. But doing it in really fun, super cool ways, because tons of flame all over the place really makes for an awesome mental image for my cannon for these battles. So, I hope you guys have all enjoyed this, and I hope you found it helpful. I certainly did. I think this is going to be fun, and we'll see how these guys go going forward. So, until next time, have fun.